Role-playing games just don't come with a higher pedigree than Final Fantasy XII, the latest in Square Enix's long-running series. It's been years in the making, and there hasn't been a proper Final Fantasy game like this since way back in 2001. But after all these years, Final Fantasy XII still lives up to the series' very high standards, ironically by shaking up the Final Fantasy formula in some significant ways. The game takes place in the world of Ivalice, which fans of the series will know from Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. The game's like a Japanese take on Star Wars' galaxy far, far away. You'll see quaint-looking city streets bustling with people and giant lizards. You'll see air battles fought by remarkable-looking fighter craft buzzing around the sky, and there's lots of political intrigue and rebellion behind the scenes. The story follows an unlikely group of characters and their attempt to overthrow an empire that's come muscling into their country. The cast includes the typical androgynous male lead in Vaughn, sort of an Aladdin type with good instincts and a good head on his shoulders. But some of the more interesting characters are Balthier, sort of this gentlemanly sky pirate, and his captivating and sternly serious companion, a rabbit-eared woman named Fran. Rounding out the party, there's Vaughn's childhood friend, a headstrong princess, and a dishonored yet honorable former military captain. These characters' long journey will bring them face to face with the truth behind the Empire's power, and the story unfolds using a lot of highly impressive cinematic cutscenes. These cutscenes manage to capture even very subtle changes of facial expression, and it helps that there's generally excellent voice acting and very well-written dialogue to help bring these characters to life. The story is there to tie the whole experience together and compel you to keep fighting onward, but the gameplay itself involves a lot of combat, exploration, and character building, same as any other Final Fantasy game, really. However, the combat this time around is very different from what fans have come to expect. The combat system takes its influence from online role-playing games in that it's all in real time, and it stresses the importance of strategically balancing out your character's skills and abilities. What's more, there are no random encounters this time. All the combat takes place seamlessly within the game's environments. This is great in that it helps makes the combat feel more connected to the rest of the game, but there's some trade-off in that you lose some of the larger-than-life sense of scale from the past Final Fantasy games. Fear not, though, as there are plenty of big, tough enemies waiting for you. And in fact, the game is filled with a lot of different enemies and plenty of particularly challenging boss fights. The unusual thing about the combat, and this can be pretty off-putting at first, is that it can be a pretty hands-off affair under normal circumstances. That's because of the Gambit system, which essentially lets you program the artificial intelligence for each of your characters. This is done through a generally well-designed and slick interface, but you're still programming, so the system is quite complex. You can still manually control your characters, but some combination of manual input and the Gambit system is really the best way to go. Ultimately, the system forces you to think big-picture strategy and not get bogged down by no-brainer decisions. There's also Final Fantasy XII's license board system, which lets you grow each of your characters however you want. It's kind of like the board game Scrabble, but it lets you spend points you earn from enemy kills on new upgrades and abilities. Every single weapon, accessory, and special ability in the game has a license you'll need to acquire before you can actually use it, which seems awfully strange and kind of confining at first. But in the end, this system is quite interesting and lets you specialize or generalize your characters as much as you want. Like the Gambit system, it's fairly dense at first, and you might wish there were an option to have your characters automatically level up based on some basic archetypes like fighter or mage or something like that. As it is, you'll probably wind up spending a lot of time poring over the license board, but the decisions you make here are really quite interesting and help create more incentive around fighting lots and lots of bad guys, since you'll keep earning license points that way. There's a lot to see and do in this game. It's spent years in the making, and it's appropriately large in size, so expect to see a lot of different places as you travel around mostly on foot. There are lots of towns and dungeon-like environments, plus various side quests to undertake and reasons to come back to the game, even after you've spent the 40 or 50 hours it'll take to get through the quest for the first time. Along the way, you'll see a lot of spectacular visuals and listen to a lot of great music, the sort of stuff Final Fantasy is known for. The game's visual style is really distinct, reminiscent of Square's old game Vagrant Story rather than past Final Fantasy installments. The art style and overall presentation really are one of the highlights of the experience.
You could destroy all of Ivalice if you wished it.
Princess, you You have been chosen. Take revenge against those who stole your kingdom. Fulfill your role as savior.
Destroy them all. The Empire?
In the end, Final Fantasy XII lives up to the series' reputation of setting the standard for how impressive and involved role-playing games can be on a video game console. While it's not the technical marvel that Final Fantasy X was back in 2001, it's got so much depth and detail and lasting value, and just straight-up quality in it, that it's very easy to recommend to Final Fantasy fans or anyone else into role-playing games.